morning, good afternoon, and or good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the No Respek Podcast. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. And for those of you who are joining us once again, we thank you and appreciate you. Join alongside me today, of course, is Justin and Alex as per usual. How are you, Justin?
I'm great. The Habs gave me a little scare this week, but ready to talk about it. And kind of pissed about
true.
the Jesperi Kotkaniemi decision, but we'll get into that later.
100%. And Alex, yourself, long day of work?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, long day at work, but I'm here, hyped for episode 5. Excellent. Just want to point out that I've been here for 5 episodes now, feeling pretty settled, feeling this is going well, so let's keep it up.
Not going to ask for a trade anytime soon.
Victor Mete has, so we'll get into that later. Guys, episode 5 of First Degree Burn. It doesn't get any more poetic because it was our first loss this week against the Flames. And the Flames, of course, has to do with fire. I mean, we make this shit for free. Like, come on, this is beautiful. A First Degree Burn, episode 5. But guys, more seriously, want to start off this episode with a couple of shout outs. Of course, we've been added a little bit more actively on YouTube, Twitter, and all of that great stuff. So a couple of special shout outs before we get into the Habs this week and all of that good stuff. Only 2 games, so it might be a shorter episode. First shout out goes out to Mike Bulishevsky. I believe I say that correctly. I apologize if I don't. Kind of send out a little bit of an aggressive message this summer asking if we just stopped doing podcasts, and we're like, damn, we should come back. Another guy that we forgot to mention last time, and this guy's been also asking for us for quite some time when we took our pause, is Quichi, and I think he's from Germany, so ich möchte ein große Bier. I believe that's I will want a big beer. I don't know, I think. But Dankeschön for listening. Ant Dude, of course, Absurd for commenting. And our last shout out goes to Legacy Corner, which we will be having on the podcast today. So we're going to throw it to that interview later on. Super pumped to have him. If you don't know who he is, we'll get into all that great stuff later. So, guys, this week was all about the Flames. We're talking about, Monahan, Goudreau, Markstrom, Giordano, all of these players. And we knew that heading into this week, we thought it was going to be a test. Alex, if I'm not mistaken, last time you said that we were going to be 2-0 this week. Yeah. I called the split. I want to say that I got that right off the bat.
I did too.
I like that as well. Yeah.
Put it on the board.
Yeah, exactly. So the 2 games will go one by one since we don't have that much to cover. But the first one starting off with a 4-2 win. Could have been 4-0, but anyways, let's start off with that one. Carey Price was starting on this one. So what are your guys' thoughts? Let's start with you, Justin.
Yeah, for me, the Flames came out hot. No pun intended there. But yeah, they came out hot in the beginning of the first there and gave us a bit of a scare. I think they got some good chances. Carey Price made some good saves early on. But then our power play just scored 2 goals out of nowhere, basically. Corey Perry in front of the net with Brendan Gallagher. Great goal.
Sick.
And yeah, Shea Weber, slapper that missed by like 10 feet, but got, who was it stick that deflected it
Something Aki? I can't remember the
Valimaki, I think.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. There you go.
So yeah, we got that. And then after that, it was pretty much Habs in control for the rest of the game. Carey Price was playing well, I found, until the last, I guess, minute of the game. He kind of let in a weak goal. The last goal was a bit weak. The one before was a kind of shitty deflection or a puck bounce got past him. But overall, a great game by the Habs, I found.
Alex,
yeah, I agree with what Justin's saying. Period 1, the Flames did come out really hot. I think it was to be expected with the team, like we've been saying in the past weeks, that's a bit deeper, can probably match Montreal's depth or come close to it. And they were on a losing streak prior. So I think we were expecting that from them. But yeah, like you said, Montreal took over after that. The power play bailed us out in the first, and it was pretty dominant, smooth sailing from them. I don't know why Carey Price seems to have this issue with shutouts. I feel like he's probably the goalie who lets in the most last-minute goals that cancel a shutout in the league. I don't know if anyone tracks that, but hit me up if you do. And I was pleased with that game. It was a good performance, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys said. I mean, the thing about the Flames is that they came off I think they lost against the Leafs both times, if I'm not mistaken. So they were coming off
I
a
think
pretty
so, yeah.
So they're coming off from a losing streak, and they were obviously pissed. Jake Muzzin flipping the puck on Matthew Tkachuk. He was getting angry. They come in with obviously a little bit of bite, like you guys said, but this is the great thing about the Montreal Canadiens is that they weathered the storm, and we have the pieces to weather the storm. Whereas I think in years precedent that wouldn't have been the case necessarily. Those hot starts could have really hurt us. And obviously we got to talk about Tyler Toffoli, who's still red hot. That goal made no sense. A sick flip from Nick Suzuki, and I don't know how the fuck that ended up in the back of the net. But the main difference between I see this game and the next one, which we can probably get into because you guys said it all, is the goaltending. David Riddick, I don't want to say he had a bad game, but when you compare maybe a little bit of the goaltending situation, which was on Saturday night, I think Markstrom, he shut the door at key moments, and sometimes that's what you need to really get it out. It was a really low scoring affair. It's 2-0 loss, but it was a 1-0 game. Jake Allen, once again, fantastic in this one. Always great to have a backup goalie that's actually decent. But yeah, if there was a storyline in this game, it's the fact, first of all, that the Flames, they held a meeting, a player-only meeting. Rasmus Anderson didn't want to talk about it at all with the media, just shut it down. He's like, just got to stay between the players. The players know what happened. And they came out with bite. I'll give him that. So your thoughts, Justin, maybe on this second game?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much a goaltending duel, I found. So Jacob Markstrom obviously showed a lot and what he can do. I was kind of a bit skeptical about him. Wasn't sure in the offseason if that kind of signing was good for the Flames, but he's been really solid for Vancouver and now for the Flames at the start of the season. So he was there to shut the door, and also their defense played pretty well, blocking a lot of shots and kind of clogging up the slot and stuff. So the Habs, they got their share of chances, but they just couldn't put it away, and that's basically it. I guess their team meeting really put some pep in their step.
Yeah, and Alex, before you give me your thoughts, I think that a lot of the things that I saw from the Flames is like, again, we said bite, but it was a lot more aggressive, I think, from everybody's standpoint. And I don't know if that comes back to what happened with the Leafs and the fact that, Tkachuk completely lost it. And then after that, nobody coming necessarily to his defense. I don't know if that was the topic of conversation, but it just seemed like everybody was getting involved. Monahan, even what's his name? No, that's the only person that I'm thinking of right now. But yeah, your thoughts, Alex, on this game specifically, and how it went up and down for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, I think same as the first game against the Flames. The Flames came out hot again. They scored, 2 or 3 minutes in on that power play. Mm-hmm. But after that, I think it was probably the most even game we've seen Montreal play this year. The second and third period were pretty much trading chances. The goaltending on both sides was really, really good. I think my takeaway from this game is that if Montreal is going to lose a game, that's how I want to see them lose. Mm-hmm. I don't think they played badly at all. Markstrom came up with some really good saves, and like you mentioned, it's good to see Jake Allen again with a strong performance, even though he didn't come out with the win. It's nice to know that when Price isn't playing, you actually do have some strong support there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it sucks, but we're gonna lose games. We can't win every game, so if we're gonna lose, that's how I want to see them lose.
Yeah, and also we lost Josh Anderson about, I think, in the first period, was it? Or
after the first, I believe.
Yeah. So I mean, losing him, playing 11 forwards, so that's also an adjustment you have to make. And it was definitely a frustrating game to watch because it kind of felt like a lot of seasons past where we got a lot of chances, but we couldn't really put it away, and it didn't feel like we had like some hero that could actually do it and score a big goal for us. So yeah, it was a bit frustrating, but all in all, wasn't the worst game, like worst way to lose a game. Like I thought we played well enough to get a better result.
Yeah, and I think Calgary is a great team. Like we spoke about this at the beginning of the episode, not the episode of the season, that this is a team that has the depth, and maybe they haven't had the hardest start like the Montreal Canadiens, but that's why they held that player meeting, and it apparently worked. But it could have gone either way, regardless here. Like I saw, like the first period was Calgary's, the second one was the Montreal Canadiens. And then it came down to the third and nothing really happened. I don't like the fact that we didn't score any goals, but the fact that we've been, on this hot streak, I'm not worried one bit. Like I'm not going to take this and be like, okay, well now we've come down to normal. Like this is just like what happened this game, and it's going to happen. So I'm not panicked. I don't know if you guys are at all with this performance.
For me, I'm not really. I mean, I'm not panicked at all as a whole. I thought one player that really had a bad game, and I'm looking at the stats now, it's kind of surprising, and he had 5 shots this game, but it's Phil Deneau. I thought he had a pretty bad game for just all around. I thought he was just a little off. Like nothing really crazy bad. I guess he missed that 3-on-1 shot that like went to the heavens for some reason. I don't know if a player tipped it or something, but
yeah, it hit Lindholm's stick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, still, I thought he should. That player I wanted more from, but other than that, I mean, yeah, I'm not too worried. We still had chances. We didn't get dominated at all. So,
yeah, I agree with Justin. No reason to panic. But like he touched on, Deneau definitely wasn't his best game. I think there are a few guys that is probably the worst I've seen them play in a while. Like even Nick Suzuki, I'm not saying he played badly, but he didn't have that impact that you usually see from him. It was his first pointless game, so you can't expect him to have a point every night. Shea Weber, I think, I mean, again, nothing terrible, but just the passing wasn't there. And even Jeff Petrie, I found like he did have a few of his trademark rushes up the ice, but I thought he looked a bit weaker than usual. So it's gonna happen. Players have off nights. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no reason to panic.
Yeah, and I think like we've got to say it to ourselves, guys. Like as Habs fans, we've been kind of treated this past couple of games here with this start, and we can't expect when you did the call of like us going 2-0 this week, Alex. I was like, I believe it can happen, but just like statistically, like we need to come back down a little bit to earth here, and I wouldn't think that the Habs would still have 0 regulation losses. So. Yeah, I mean,
I do want to say it seems every time that I vouch for the Habs, they prove me wrong. So
yeah, there you go. So yeah, keep your pessimistic side. That's why we have you on. So, but yeah, that's it, guys. I mean, obviously only 2 games this week, so we're not going to keep talking about that too much in depth. I think the one thing that you guys are probably expecting us to talk about in this game is the Kotkaniemi hit. That one was from what was his name? Dylan Dubé. Yeah, there you go. And the Calgary Flames coming out with Dubé with the strong emoji there.
Yeah, they deleted it. They deleted the tweet after.
Good, excellent.
Screenshots never get deleted though.
That's right, baby. That's right. But yeah, so we're going to talk about that with legacy, because this has been something that we've wanted to cover just a little bit in terms of a conversation, is the refereeing. We touched on it last episode, so we'll get his thoughts on that. So we'll come back a little bit to the Calgary game and the Jesperi Kotkaniemi headshot. Let's call it what it is. No discipline that was given, but we'll get into those details later. I think what's a good segue is since we're talking about the Flames and the Habs, one thing that the Habs and the Flames have in common is that they have 2 players, one on each side, that have demanded trade requests. And the first one coming from the Calgary Flames, and this was during the game, if you were watching it on Sportsnet, apparently there was a report that Sam Bennett would like a change of scenery. And I don't want to say the one for the Habs right now because I'm kind of butthurt. But it's Victor Mete. So let's start off with
because
Sam
you're
Bennett.
Italian? Is that way?
Man, of course. Like I would have expected a little bit more loyalty from my paisan. So let's start with Sam Bennett. What do you guys think?
I mean, I don't know. I think Sam Bennett, he was like a highly touted prospect Was he the one who couldn't do a pull-up right at the combine? That was Sam Bennett?
Is that him?
Could be. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, I think he was drafted, I think, 4th overall. And Calgary fans were hyped. I think the organization was hyped, and obviously he hasn't reached those highs. I think he's still a solid player, though, solid 3rd or 4th line player. I don't know if he sees himself playing higher in the lineup currently on Calgary. I don't see where he'd fit in Calgary's top 2 lines, but I don't know. I think as a player at some point, you have to vouch for yourself and try to fight for that spot. But it's been 5-6 years now that he's been drafted. I don't really see him developing into that skill player that people thought he was. But yeah, I mean, I don't really mind if players request trades if they're looking for a change of scenery. If he doesn't start like bashing the organization and stuff, I have no problem with it.
Justin?
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting player. I'm looking at his stats here, and it's his rookie season. He actually had the most points out of his career, with 36. So it's definitely that kind of player that you have great expectations for, and then it kind of was dipping down in the last 4 or 5 years. So I mean, he's shown sparks. Like he's shown last year in the playoffs, he had 8 points in 10 games, and the year before he had 5 points in 5 games. So he's like a playoff performer, but he hasn't really put it together other than his amazing mustache. So yeah, I'm not too sure what's gonna happen, but maybe a change of scenery could do good for him. But yeah, it's weird though. We're seeing a lot of trade requests these days, and but I think this
requests.
Trade requests. But yeah, I mean, I think this player could benefit from a trade request or a trade, because maybe if in another lineup with maybe a less deep squad, he's going to fit in better and have a bigger role. So maybe, but I don't know what you guys think in terms of where he could land.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, what you're saying now has made me kind of change my opinion, because I'm thinking a guy like William Karlsson, right? Like he was buried, was it Anaheim? I think it was. And then he got his chance in
Anaheim?
Vegas. Or, Anaheim or Columbus.
Think,
but then he got his shot in Vegas. Actually, looking at the whole Vegas team, like a lot of those guys were underrated guys who are now producing at a consistent level, right? Riley Smith, I think he was good in Florida, but he's reached another level in Vegas. So yeah, no, what you're saying makes sense, and I agree with your take there.
So the way I see this for Sam Bennett, I got to be careful when I talk about other teams' players, by the way, because we posted a video about PLD and Patrick Laine. Holy fuck.
You got roasted, bud.
Yo, dude, like I said PLD, I gave my reasons. You guys listened to it, but man, you got to be careful with when you talk it. Like it was the first time that I realized, like the same way that I get angry and I'm so emotionally attached to like my players, that's exactly how other people feel. And even though you're just trying to give an opinion. So that's a little side note. So I'll be careful here. What I say about Sam Bennett is that for me, it makes total sense that a guy that's kind of underperformed in his career in Calgary doesn't necessarily care about winning with this team, because he's more focused right now on getting an opportunity where he can grow and develop, and he doesn't want to go to the AHL. So Sam Bennett, he's already on a deep team. He can't necessarily move up because he doesn't have the opportunity, or he can't make the most of the time that he's been given in Calgary, at least the way that I see it, or at least he feels that way. And for me, it makes total sense, is that he's like, okay, if I stay here, I could potentially win the cup, but that's not what my career needs. At least that's the way that I would sense that that's the trade request thing. And to move on to that, we can talk about our boy Victorious Mete, who surprised us at the tender age of 19, 4th round pick, came out of nowhere with those legs of his, just magnifico. But the point being about Victor Mete, sorry, I went real Italian there.
Yeah.
The point being about Victor Mete and the tandem that I can make here with Sam Bennett is that Victor Mete, he's been given an opportunity. He's developed but not enough to say like you absolutely need him in the lineup. And especially with the identity of this team kind of shifting to the bigger and mobile defensemen, I can understand. Like, as much as I want to keep Victor Mete in our pipeline, that's going to be Juleson and Mete that we're going to lose, but at least Mete, we have a little bit of control in getting something back. But I understand. Like, the guy wants to play. He's going to be part of like this deep lineup and won't necessarily get a chance to play in a year that's already been shortened because of COVID. Why would you want to stay necessarily with the Montreal Canadiens unless, you know, you're really like, you know, absolutely loyal to this team? And I don't think that's the case. And it's totally fine that it's not the case. I don't know what you guys think about the situation with Victor Mete.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm all for players wanting to make a name for themselves and wanting a place in the lineup. I think Victor Mete kind of deserves that. He's shown that he can play at the NHL level. On the Habs, we just have defensemen that are in front of him on the depth chart, and Romanov kind of jumped over him there.
Even Kulak,
yeah. So I mean, it kind of sucks in a way, because I would have really liked for maybe, if he felt like this, to request a trade before we dropped Juleson, because now we kind of are in a place where we lost one prospect defenseman who has shown promise, and now we're gonna lose or get a trade for another defenseman. So that's the part that kind of makes me a bit mad. But I think he deserves a shot in another lineup. But I think he could be a good depth piece for the Habs, because if one of our defensemen goes down, I think he's the next call up for sure, right?
For sure.
So I mean, I think part of it is just like, Victor, be patient. You'll get your shot.
Yeah.
But
Victor,
another part is
please.
like, if we don't run into injuries, this kid's not going to play, because we just have better defensemen right now.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. And the identity of the team is basically that. Alex, sorry, I don't know if you have any other comments on the Victor Mete request.
Yeah, I agree with what both of you are saying. A couple things I want to mention. Bergevin has come out and said this isn't true and I'm not trading him. So make of that what you will, considering what happened.
But his agent came back and said that it was true. So that's the thing. So I don't know.
We'll see. Another thing for Victor Mete, what I see from his point of view, it is his contract year. His contract's up after this year. So if you don't play a single game, what negotiating power do you have?
Good point.
And yeah, obviously a young guy trying to crack an NHL lineup, he wants to play. So I understand from his point of view. What bothers me about it is that he's had a lot of chances in the past few years when our lineup was not deep. Mm-hmm. It seems like he did not work on his shot at all, which was the weakest part of his game. I never saw improvement in that over the years. So I don't know. It just seems like if he was really serious about anchoring a spot in this lineup, I think we would have seen more improvement from him. So to kind of be giving up after not playing for 8 games is kind of disappointing. But we'll see what happens. And I hope he is successful if he is traded. If he's not, I hope he's successful here. But I can see both sides of the argument for sure.
I mean, I remember when Victor Mete made his rise, it was like we made it like the second coming of Christ. And that's just kind of a testament to where our team was at back in the day in this whole retool thing. But, you know, again, I agree. Like at some point, you need to make a decision for your career. And this is the case for Sam Bennett and Victor. You know, I'm talking to him like as if I know him. But the real thing about being in the NHL is that you need to leverage somehow to get a contract, and without playing, like you said, it's impossible. So we shall see what happens. So that pretty much does it for like Habs news for that part of the segment. So we can move into around the league, and we also do want to get into the legacy segment, our boy Brendan Legacy. So a couple of things around the league. And this is a pretty big one, and could be a pretty big talking point depending on what kind of how creative you want to get. So Jim Rutherford, GM of the Penguins, steps away for personal reasons and abandons his team. I'm saying this, paraphrasing it. So first of all, this is after a Pittsburgh Penguins team that hasn't had the greatest start. They obviously have been in a win now mode for God knows how fucking long, but it's been since, Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang have been there. And this brings up the topic of all three of them potentially being privy to a conversation that would suggest that this team is now no longer in a win now mode. And this is a conversation that then opens up to the fact that, well, hey, maybe you won't be Pittsburgh Penguins for life, and maybe you won't continue to win cups for the rest of time altogether. So I don't want to make this clickbaity, but we need to. It's Sidney Crosby. Do you see him potentially going somewhere else? Or Evgeny Malkin or Chris Letang? And do you think that the Montreal Canadiens would have interest in this? I'll let you go, Justin.
I mean, whenever you're talking about Sidney Crosby, who is, let's remember, one of the best players in the league, one of the best players of all time.
Of all time, yeah.
Bar
GOAT
none.
Status, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously the Habs would be interested. They're not stupid. Personally, I don't think Pittsburgh would want to trade Sidney Crosby. I don't think their situation is that bad to say that they should blow it all up right now. I think they still have Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin who can carry your team, basically. Their defense is kind of not amazing, barring Chris Letang, his body's made of glass, so he usually misses half the season at least, most seasons. But I don't think the Penguins always find a way, it seems. They have the players to kind of find a way, and I don't think necessarily they're going to blow it all up. But if they do, I think the primary piece would be Evgeny Malkin. I think Sidney Crosby is going to be a lifer on the Pens for me.
Alex, do you think that that's the case?
Yeah, I agree with one part of what Justin's saying. So I agree that Sidney Crosby is going to be there for life. I don't see him leaving. I could see Malkin and or Letang being moved. Where I don't agree is that Pittsburgh has a chance at a cup. I could see Malkin and Crosby dragging that team to the playoffs every year until they're retired. But I don't think they have a chance of even making it to the finals or anything. Their supporting cast is not good. The defense is not good. I don't know about Tristan Jarry. I don't know if he's actually solid or not. He needs a few years to kind of determine that. Yeah. But yeah, so for your two-part question, yeah, Crosby's there forever. Letang and Malkin, I could see being moved, but it'd be a pretty hefty price. And I don't see that team competing anymore.
Okay, so I'm going to say this, and I think a lot of people know this, is that Crosby is a huge Montreal Canadiens fan. And from Cole Harbour, just like Nathan McKinnon. And I think that if they're going into rebuild mode and Crosby needs to be there, rebuild for me is like full rebuild. I don't think that they're going to do that, so that helps them make a case for him to stay. But even a retool, I think Sidney Crosby could potentially be like, yeah, nah, I'm not down for that. I'm 34, I'm still lit as shit. Take me to a place that will allow me to compete for the years to come. I don't want a break. That's the thing that for me, I could see that happening. I don't know if it will, but that only reason is that, he's 34. He's not going to waste his time for a 2 to 3 year rebuild unless they do a trade that's quite significant and that can flip this team around. But we saw, for Marc Bergevin, for I want to say the Boston Bruins, you need a couple of years to do a successful retool. And people aren't necessarily patient when it comes to that stuff. But I would think that Sidney Crosby would be one of the least patient people when it comes to that. He's 34. He wants to give it his best go. And the Montreal Canadiens, let's be honest, is that, we don't have the cap space, but we have the assets. We could potentially make this happen. I would definitely inquire. You're not going to fucking inquire for Sidney Crosby, a guy that loved the Montreal Canadiens?
No, of course you are, yeah.
But so, okay, if there was a price to pay Is there anything that's too steep for you? How about that? And then we'll move on to something that's less hypothetical.
I say Carey Price for Sidney Crosby 1-for-1.
And Jake Allen, our starter?
Yep.
I'll take. I honestly probably would do that deal. Do that deal right now.
Yeah, there's definitely a price that's too steep, but yeah, I think you have to inquire, and on the off chance that they'd be willing to move him, you can't do like Kotkaniemi and Suzuki, but one of them and a Caulfield and a first and another prospect, then yeah, you do it. Okay. But there's definitely a price that's too steep.
Yeah,
you
but it would have to be even more than
100%
that.
you
Like,
do that.
Yeah.
Not in 2 years though. Like it'd have to be this off season before he's an elder,
agreed.
right? Like while he's still useful. But not
so
when he's 40.
when does his contract expire? Do you guys know? It was one of those really long
idea.
ones, no? Like the ones
because
before.
he's on a
Another
good
3
cap
years?
hit. He's on a good cap hit for
8.7 for
right?
one of the best players in the league. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one that's better is Nathan McKinnon, which is fucked. But you know,
Well,
those
he's-
Cole
he's-
Harbor guys, man, they're generous. They're generous as fuck.
No, he's under contract till 24, 25.
Okay,
that's
then
4 more years.
I changed my mind. You do it.
I mean,
100% though.
I would do it, but I don't think it's gonna happen. He's not gonna get trade. Like, it has to be for. Like, I can't see a trade that would make sense.
I think
Unless
I
you
can.
have
you know
3
what?
first
You know
round
what?
picks and like
Honestly-
2 amazing prospects or something
Yo,
like
I'm
that.
gonna
I
get
think-
roasted for this. But I'm trading Nick Suzuki for Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
Well, no shit, you are.
Of course you are.
No,
Yeah.
like 100%. Like if I
But
agree with you.
They're not going to want to do that though. That's like,
Well,
that's not.
I'm
enough.
not saying that it's not going to be 1-for-1
No,
Nick
I know.
Suzuki Crosby. I'm saying though that
They're
like
gonna have to add in that case.
yeah, I'll add all I want. You want Cole Caulfield? Take him. You want fucking
No, sorry,
Jaden
Pittsburgh,
Struble?
You're going to
Yeah.
get so
to
much
add.
shit for these players when we have them on the pod eventually.
One day. No, but listen, you got to understand. And if you're listening back for some reason and we've had you and it's 5 years deep and the podcast is successful for whatever reason, listen to me. It's Sidney Crosby. It's Sidney Crosby. Like you give up an arm and a leg. And we have enough assets, I think.
Saying Joel Armia.
Of course, Joel, I love you, but fucking it's Sidney Crosby. Like, you look at the amount of assets, how deep this team, you take the hit at the depth level, and you're going to have to give up. If you have to give up 2 of your young stars, like in Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Nick Suzuki, that's when I start kind of putting, my break, where I'm like, fuck, I have to think about this. But if you have Phil Deneau, you have Sidney Crosby, you need that third piece to really be deep. So that's why I would keep one of Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Nick Suzuki. But man, I would have to put him on the table for this to get done. And I'm pretty sure I would do it with no questions asked. And we have enough assets to do it. I don't know what you guys think. I think I might be fucking myself over and people are gonna roast me. But hey, bring it on.
Here,
Alex, go ahead. Sorry.
okay. Sorry, I was gonna put an end to the segment. So if you wanna step in, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think any team in the league would trade one of their best assets for Sidney Crosby right now. Like,
Correct.
It maybe not like Edmonton, Colorado, or like some teams with like the highest guys, but anyone else, they want a player like Sidney Crosby. Like he's a legendary player, and he's like such a marketable player too. Like one of the greatest of all time. Like any team in the league wants him.
Yeah, but the storyline is destined for Montreal. The guy's a fan of the Montreal Canadiens, the greatest player of all time from fucking Cole Harbor, Nova Scotia. I mean, the guy, it's written in the stars here. I'm just saying. Like, he's not going to go to the Arizona Coyotes. Like, get the fuck out of here.
He likes the sun.
Like, Sidney Crosby, a yote. Like, sorry, Biz Nasty. It's not going to happen. Anyways, okay. Enough about this hypothetical.
Sorry.
I think that,
Here's my end to the segment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Next September, Sidney Crosby will be a Montreal Canadian.
Along with
Pierre-Luc
PLD.
Dubois, Sidney Crosby. We've said this like 4 times already.
Yeah, we're gonna have
One of them's
Sidney
bound
Crosby on
to
the
be
taxi
right.
squad.
That's true.
All right. Okay. Enough with the dreams. Here, let's get into a couple of things that's happened. I want to talk about Cole Caulfield just very quickly. Guy's a stud, NCAA legend. Another, I think it was a 4-point performance, something stupid. 2 goals, wired it from the fucking short side. Just unreal. Really excited about him. I don't know if you guys have any comments. We needed to bring it up because this is guy part of our prospect pool is going to be on a fucking entry-level contract. Marc Bergevin talked about him potentially joining the team at the end of the year. Yeah. Do you guys see him joining this squad and helping us plan the parade?
I mean, I think the chances are slim that he actually joins the Canadiens this season, just because he doesn't have the experience playing against professionals. So, I mean, I think he could definitely join Laval potentially this year and just like finish the season with them, unless we're running into injury trouble and we kind of need a top player, like a top player to come in and score goals. Maybe then we take a chance, but I don't see him necessarily joining the Habs this season.
If we bring him in, he's getting a sniff. He's going to sniff.
I'm not saying he could play some regular season games, but I don't think he's going to come in as the savior and bring us to glory in the playoffs or something.
But we're not in a position where we need a savior, but he's going to get a sniff for sure.
Well,
and if he plays the way that he's been fucking playing in the NCAA, obviously it's in the NHL, but fuck. You, Alex, do you think?
Yeah, I think he'd suit up for a few games if he does get brought up. My take on Cole Caulfield is that hopefully, if he does play a few games and performs, it makes the Thomas Tatar decision easier in the offseason.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
That's the replacement. Like Thomas 100%. Tatar, he's like the sniper that can replace Thomas Tatar. But for this season, another reason I don't think he's gonna necessarily join the team and play games is just because of COVID. If it was a regular season, for sure, I think he'd play a few games. But the fact is, when you have to bring another player onto the taxi squad or do all these like waiver, well, he is not eligible for waivers, but just moving the money around and stuff like for that, it's too complicated.
It's more complex,
and it's I don't think because of that he's going to come into the squad.
Yeah, it's definitely above our No Respek pay grade here. So, but I think that they'll try to make it happen for sure. Is that if they can and he can get a little bit of a taste and see what he can do, because that's exactly the point. There is that if Thomas Tatar, he's a very valuable player to this team, and that line, that fucking effective 5-on-5 line in Danault, Gallagher, and Tatar. If you have a replacement at an entry-level contract in Cole Caulfield next year, and then you have to move him and get an asset, I love you, Tuna, but this is business, right? This is business. You gotta do what you gotta do if you're Marc Bergevin.
But you gotta be sure, because Thomas Tatar puts up he had the most points last season, the last two seasons,
that's
I believe.
The problem. Like, unfortunately for us, Tatar's been amazing. Like, I say that like I don't mean that way.
No,
but
I know.
Like, it sucks that he's been so good because he's gonna get paid.
You can't keep him.
Like,
yeah. But he loves it here. I don't know if that actually fucking matters. I know that it usually doesn't. I'd like to believe that at one point somebody's gonna be like, this place is lit, like a Ben Sherratt. Like Ben Sherratt. We haven't talked about Ben Sherratt, but fucking Ben Sherratt came here out of Winnipeg. He was bottom 6, turned into a solid fucking top 4D and quietly going about his business, punching fucking Matthew Tkachuk in the face. Like, it's great. And he's at 3.5, wanted to come to Montreal. That never happens. And if Thomas Tatar decides to, I'll take a little bit less. I made my money a bit. I want to stay with the Bleu Blanc Rouge. I
mean, you know what? Like, that might have been true that people didn't want to come to the Canadiens a few years ago. I mean, there's the media attention, there's all the barriers to entry, but now the Habs are actually looking like contenders. So now you might get free agents wanting to come to Montreal, wanting to be in the spotlight if it can mean they can taste the experience of Montreal and potentially bring a cup back here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you see it and having guys like Corey Perry come to the Montreal Canadiens, I think that sends a message across the league. Like, he could have gone anywhere else. I mean, he said, like, I say that, and the only significant offer was from the Montreal Canadiens, or the first serious offer was from the Montreal Canadiens. The other ones were PTOs, from what I gather. But he could have said no, right? Because of all of those things and the fact that he doesn't believe that they're a contender. And I think one of the only reasons why he didn't get picked up on waivers was the fact that he's only going to play for the Montreal Canadiens. I could be wrong in that. I don't know why he didn't get picked up, but I think there's an understanding that if you're going to pick up Corey Perry and you're like, I don't know, the Detroit Red Wings, he's going to tell you, go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not, I don't want to, you know?
No, that is what it is. No, you're absolutely right. It's the same thing as Spezza in Toronto. Like Spezza's agent told people if you pick him up, he's going to retire. So it's the same situation with
that was kind of a bullshit move, but
no, it's fair enough, man. With the taxi squad, like imagine you're a 20-year veteran.
Yeah,
and then,
I mean, sure, but
Florida
it kind of protects your player. It protects your player from getting chosen on waivers. Like you just say, well, he's not going to join. If you claim
it only happens in that situation. Only a veteran can do that.
Only
like
with
it's
those
not like
guys
Victor Mete is going to be like, he's like, no, I'm staying with the Montreal Canadiens or I'm retiring. Like,
but it kind of sets a precedent though for veterans like that. Like Corey Perry could have said that. Like you're putting me down to waivers. I'm going to retire if you don't.
That's fine.
Say that.
Do it.
I'm sure
he's allowed. Yeah. 20 years in the league. The guy's going to do whatever the fuck he wants. Okay. And he's going to feed it to Brendan Gallagher between the fucking legs. I don't give a fuck. And he's going to be a Montreal Canadian. He's going to win the cup. Okay. Enough.
Okay.
One little thing on Perry. Have you ever seen a guy who skates that slowly?
Dwight King. Dwight King is the only one.
True. Like he's been effective, but I just don't understand how that's his speed.
No, he always seems gassed. He always looks gassed as fuck. Like
always, always like shrugging. He's like, "Fuck, the puck's all the way over there." Like,
but he's been great though. He's been great. Like,
his body language.
I have no problems with his game.
Yeah, I mean, you tweeted it out, right? Fucking Corey point per game Perry. Fuck, yeah, actually unreal. Apart from last Perry. Game. Yeah. But to move on with a couple of other things around the league. This one, Alex, I think you were telling this to us before about Tony DeAngelo, or was it Justin?
Yeah, it was me. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about our friend Tony DeAngelo.
So friend of the show. Yeah.
Controversial player, Tony DeAngelo. Apparently, the story is that the Rangers lost in overtime, and it was due to a miscommunication between Tony DeAngelo and Alexander Georgiev, the goalie. So Georgiev went to go play the puck when what's his name? DeAngelo was coming to get the puck behind the net, and it resulted in a goal because they lost possession, passed, and I think Crosby scored the goal. So after the game, DeAngelo was pissed at Georgiev, and apparently he was yelling at him, and they even started fighting in the locker room. And apparently Chris Kreider, who is the captain, if I'm not mistaken, is he the captain now?
No, I think you're right.
No,
isn't he?
Is that true? No,
I don't know.
No, anyway, that's complete bullshit.
I think he's supposed to become the captain. He's like their expected captain, but he punched Tony DeAngelo in the face, and the next morning, Tony DeAngelo is on waivers.
Do you think he's going to retire if someone other than New York picks him up?
I don't know. This might announce it on Parlor though.
Yo, this guy has been controversial as fuck.
Yeah, he has some racist comments in the past, and he always just seems. Well, he's a Trump supporter. Don't want to offend anyone, but there's definitely some controversies in his past, and I think the kind of problems kind of kept boiling over, and at this point, the Rangers just decided to cut their losses and cut the player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listen. On not offending anyone, I think pretty much go fuck yourself. Like if you're a Trump supporter, I'll say it. I don't give a fuck. That being said, this guy, there's a certain limit. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, of course. Everybody's entitled to talk. What they believe in and all of that shit. I 100% support it. But at the same time, if you're a player on a team and you become the type of person that, becomes a distraction to the point where it doesn't match it being worth it from your play. Like Tony DeAngelo is a good defenseman. Is he to the point where you're going to put up with all of this trash? Don't think so. Don't think so, So,
I mean, the thing too, D'Angelo, he's a good offensive defenseman. He's horrible defensively. Like you saw Keith Yandel get scratched in Florida a couple weeks ago because he has the same defensive issues. These are guys who can put up 50, 60 points as a D-man, but at some point, if you can't play defense, like I think the league's shifting towards these two-way defensemen. Like Montreal, as much as we are big on our defensive line, a lot of them can play two ways. Petrie, Sherrod, and Weber have shown that. So yeah, I think this shift from like Erik Karlsson, right? Erik Karlsson was a world beater. I know he's had injury issues, but it seems that coaches don't like this kind of defenseman anymore. And with his issues,
I think it needs to be worth it. I think it just needs to be worth it. Like you need to be unbelievably offensive for it to be worth the trade-off.
Yeah,
because if you're not, then you're just hurting your team. It was a little, not to get back into this whole conversation, but I think one of the critical parts of, the critics of PK Subban was the fact that yes, he did put up points, but at some points I'm using points quite a bit here, but at certain parts of his game were too risky, and as a team, it puts your whole kind of system in a little bit of like okay, what the fuck's going on? There's a jam, like there's this like this variable that you can't kind of adapt to all the time because it's not predictable, and then that could in turn fuck up the other parts of your team. So I think I agree with you is that you see even the offensive guys like John Carlson, I think he's a benefactor of the fact that the power play over there is incredible, but he's good defensively. Like you don't think of John Carlson as being this type of guy that just goes willy-nilly and does whatever the fuck he wants. He's putting up points because of the power play, and that's where I think teams enjoy seeing the offense come out, because that's where you have a bit more flexibility and you're not giving up stuff because you're on that advantage.
Yeah. If I can follow up, like a guy like Victor Hedman won the Norris last year, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think Carlson had way more points than him, but I think the league is starting to recognize that you need that solid defensive game as well. So I think that played into D'Angelo too. It's crazy considering they just signed him to a pretty significant bridge deal, 2 years at 4.8, I think, which would have put him in line for a pretty hefty raise. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah. Maybe he's going to Russia.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Well, maybe.
I don't know who. It's tough with these players because when they're so controversial and it's like a PR nightmare, who's going to take a chance on him?
Yeah, how can you pick him up?
I think it's a lower market.
How can you justify?
It has to be a desperate team. It has to be a desperate team, or Tony DeAngelo has to come out and say I'm going to shut the fuck up. I'm going to be a good boy for the rest of my career, and that's the only way it's going to happen, because it's a fucking PR nightmare for these teams. Yeah. It's especially in this day and age with social media, this shit is plastered all over the place. So it's I don't think anyone's going to pick him up. Well, I don't think anyone's going to pick him up right now.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit, and we'll see what happens. So moving on, we're going to wrap up the other news, around the league news. An interesting quote that we got for Connor McDavid from Brent Wallace, speaking with DJ Smith, the coach of the Ottawa Senators, as they prep to play against him. And I don't know if you guys saw that filthy, disgusting end-to-end goal where literally just made the whole Toronto Maple Leafs look ridiculous, which we love as Habs fans. And I know that you guys hate us and all of that good stuff, but it's a great rivalry. Guys, how filthy was that, first of all?
I mean, he deked the whole fucking team. It was insane.
Actually disgusting.
He's crazy. Sense. He's a crazy player. It's so nice. It's so sick to watch, to be able to watch this kind of player. Because we didn't get to see Gretzky, but this is the next great one to watch.
Yeah. McDavid. There's so many talented players in the league, but Alex, I want to set you up for the quote by DJ Smith here. So what did he say on containing Connor McDavid?
All right. So as per his words, he said, "I don't think there's any secret except you hope he has an off day, and you hope he doesn't have his legs, and you hope he misses the net." So a pretty strong quote there, basically saying that if he wants to score, you can't really do much to stop it. And I think he showed that with his goal against Toronto last night. Also, even his overtime winner there, like it looked fairly simple, beautiful pass from Draisaitl, but he put that in with one hand. Like he just reached out with one hand and tapped it in, no problem, which I think a lot of guys would have missed that pass. So yeah, like Justin said, like I was getting kind of worried there after the Crosby Ovechkin days that maybe that's it for generational talent. But like you said, McDavid, we get to watch. Even McKinnon stepping up big. Austin Matthews, as much as it pains me to say, but he's really fun to watch.
You love him.
You stroke the Austin Matthews when you fucking go to bed. Fuck.
Lives in Ontario for 2 years. Fuck.
If it's not against Montreal, okay, you're right. If it's not against Montreal, I love Austin Matthews, but it's fun to watch. Great for the game. I wish he had more of a personality, but I'll let him be.
Connor McDavid, you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, buddy, when you're Captain Canada like Sidney Crosby, you got to keep it together. You got to,
of course,
you're the face of hockey, you know, like, you know, I respect actually the fact that like a guy like Sidney Crosby has been such a like poster child for like, you know, obviously he's had his moments where he's like crying on the ice with the no calls and stuff like that. But I feel like over the years, you know, that kind of grows on you and you kind of see like, fuck, this guy has had the spotlight on him since literally 17 years old. Connor, even 16, they were talking about this kid. So, you know, I agree that you'd like to see a little bit more personality, but it's good to have podcasts like the Spitting Chicklets where they kind of open up a bit more. So, you know, you get to see it there at least. But yeah, so, okay, I'm going to move into last thing, talking about nice goals. Did you guys see Alex Texier's one-handed touch on the shootout? Holy shit.
I've never seen a goal like that. I've never seen anyone score like that in the NHL.
So smooth. So smooth. But yeah, the other guys that a notable first here is Alexis Lafrenière gets his first goal this week. But another guy that not this year, but the year before was the big talk of the town, but didn't have the greatest year was Jack Hughes. And he's off to a real good start. The New Jersey Devils actually, even PK Subban has been playing better from what I gather on Twitter. More of like a complete player. And what do you guys think about Jack Hughes?
For me, he's actually on my fantasy team, so I appreciate him playing well for me.
Yeah, he's playing it just for you, buddy.
But yeah, 8 points in 9 games, so close to a point per game. This is what people expected of him in his first season. I think he has nothing to lose. He's on a team that's kind of not expected to do too much this year, so I think he's more comfortable, just ready in his second year and ready to go. He has the skills. He just needs to put it all together with his line mates, and I think he can become like the number one star in New Jersey for sure.
He's got the potential for sure. Alex?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think we got spoiled a bit. Well, not us as Habs fans, but when it comes to the draft, like it was McDavid, Eichel, Matthews, guys like that. And then we had a bit of a lull where it was Nico Hischier, Nolan Patrick, and Jack Hughes, guys who haven't really been bursting onto the scene.
Yeah,
a lot of people are trashing Jack Hughes last year, and I think he had the least amount of points like in a while for a first overall pick. Like he even had less than Yakupov in his rookie year. I guess people are right to question him, but he was always like, he's a smaller build, more of a playmaker type guy, a guy that you probably have to give time to. And he's still like, he's 19 now, I guess. So yeah, good for him. I hope he keeps it up. And
yeah, well, I mean, we're going to have him on again, but it's Stats Guy, who is a New Jersey Devils fan. So he's probably ecstatic about that. Stats Guy is an actual stats guy. That's why he no longer can join us on the podcast, but he'll be back, and we'll talk about Jack Hughes and all of that good stuff. But without further ado, guys, we're going to throw it to the Legacy interview from Legacy Corner. So that's Brandon Legacy coming up next. Again, if you guys don't know who he is, we're going to get to chat to him. So without further ado, here's our interview with Mr. Brendan Legacy. Joined back now with the guest of honor for the No Respek Podcast for today's episode is Mr. Brendan Legacy. And from Legacy's Corner, again, if you guys missed the beginning of the episode where we talked about him, Legacy is a guy that has started doing content this year, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to get into all that good stuff. But Brendan, welcome to the podcast. How are you, bud?
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me. It's a treat. Like I said, I love listening to you guys. I usually do it at work. Don't tell my boss or anything about that. But yeah, I love the content. Love what you guys do. I love the interaction on Twitter. It's fun. It's just nice hanging out with some other Habs fans that are content creators.
Yeah, ditto, buddy. And today we wanted to, chat about the Habs as we normally would, but with a special guest, which is yourself. But first, I want you, just to talk about your channel and just talk about why you started it. We've had a little bit of a ride ourselves in the No Respek Podcast, and curious to get your thoughts on your beginning or background story, like Batman.
So essentially, what it was, I used to work at a rink. We would always talk hockey just because we worked in a rink, but switched to a new 9-to-5 job, and like I'd talk hockey with everybody, text my buddies nonstop during every game, and then finally one guy just like, why don't you just start creating content? I mean, he's like, you're obviously knowledgeable, you love fantasy hockey, you love sports. So I was like, I don't know if I want to put myself out there. And then finally one friend just said, he's like, if you put yourself out there and people don't support it, then you're not your friends. And I was like, you know what, you're right. This is what I love. I love doing it. I get to talk hockey down in my basement or anybody that cares to listen, and I have a blast doing it. So it's essentially why I'm doing it. Like I said, there's no money, there's nothing I'm chasing. It's just, I just love having this little hobby.
Fucking
That's
love
awesome,
it.
man.
I love it.
It's actually,
That's
it's
great.
funny. It's really similar to us. We were kind of just like, we're talking about this shit anyways, so we might as well record it, put it out there, and if people like it, then so be it. So that's kind of the same idea as start there.
Yeah, and Alex is new to the fold, so you have no say in what this is all about.
You know what? I'm just in it for the money, guys. I'm just here for the paycheck.
Yeah, there you go. It's gonna be a while.
Yeah,
anyway. Okay, so next up as a question for you, Mr. Brendan Legacy, we've got a question about what type of Habs fan you are. Now, when I say this, it's because, if you've been a Hab fan through and through, you've seen the ups, you've seen the downs. And I'm curious more recently, Marc Bergevin, not necessarily the GM that's gotten all the praise in the world up until now. But I'm curious, are you the type of fan that stays relatively level-headed? Do you go with the emotions that are on Twitter? Do you love TSN? Some of that. So optimist, realist, or pessimist, which category do you fall under?
When he first came in, I was like, I've always been level-headed, just like I'm an optimistic realist almost. Like I like to see the better side of things, but then like there's a couple years there where you're just like, we're not competing. I mean, there's holes in the roster. There was guys that shouldn't be playing where they were, and as a hockey fan, first and foremost, I was like, they're not going to win, and I hate saying it, but I'm not going to lie and pretend that there's something that they're not. I mean, there's some years I got tricked at the start or something, but like I'm all in every year, and then after like a few weeks, I'm like, okay, this is where we are. You can start seeing holes. So I'd say optimistic and realistic, but as far as emotions on Twitter, I mean, I was all over the place last night because I was up, I was down, Anderson's out, Kotkaniemi gets hit. I was so emotionally during the game, I'm all over the place. But then after it, I'll cool down for a second, take a deep breath. I'm like, okay.
You take time to digest. I like it. Yeah, I like it.
Let's come back to earth here.
So
if
I may ask a follow-up question to that, what do you think of Marc Bergevin's kind of career as a GM in Montreal? Were you always kind of on his side? Were you flippy floppy, kind of liking some stuff and disliking some stuff? Did you think he should get fired at any point in his career?
When he first came in, I saw what he did with Chicago. Obviously the Cups, the dynasty they ran. But also like I think 1 year it finally hit me when I look back. Like we see all these first rounders now, like the Sherbacks, the Galchenyuks, the Lula Blancs, the McCarrons. Like when he came in, I don't know what was going on with the draft team, but it's like they're drafting terribly. He had zero prospects in his prospect pool. So like when he said he had to like retool and overhaul, I didn't know what he meant, but then now that I see it, he didn't spend the money those years. And then now you see how the team's built and the trades he's made now. It's almost, I'm at the point now where like you have to trust him.
Yeah.
Because when you look back as fans, we were upset. We wanted his head a few times. We've like Terry and Julian's head been on the block. But when you look now what he's built and why he didn't spend to the cap with contracts that are coming up, you almost have to, I have to go back on it. Like obviously, like sometimes I was like, what is he doing? But nowadays I'm like, I'm the idiot. There's a reason why I'm the armchair GM and he's the real GM. But I mean, I don't know. Like I support him now, obviously, because look what he's built. But there's times at the start I was like, okay, this team's good, and then I was like, okay, no, they have nobody coming.
Yeah.
Lars Eller can't be your first line center.
Fact. Yeah. That's a fact. Yeah. No, but I was just going to say that, you know, gone are the days where Sven Andrighetto was your top prospect, you know, or with Jacob de la Rose, all of those great names, throwbacks. Of course, we loved them back in the day, but, you know, we were just talking about that in the episode that you haven't yet listened to, but, you know, Victor Mete was like a huge thing for us, you know, back in the time. So my dog is barking, so I'm going to let Alex maybe ask the second question. How about that?
You're going to have me ask the second question?
Yeah, if you don't mind, or Justin, do you have the next question?
No, I got it.
Yeah,
I've got it. All right, pretty simple question. What do you think about the Habs so far this year? Who's impressed you? Who's disappointed you? Has anyone disappointed you, considering how hot we've started?
Who's impressed me? Like obviously, we're gonna list off like the Suzuki's, the Toffoli, Anderson. My biggest thing, I think a lot of people, like everybody's talking about it. My big one is Jake Allen. Those 2 starts he's had, or 3 starts now, like he's looked solid, which is, we all know it's huge for Carey Price, especially the rest. And I pointed out on Twitter last night as well that with Jake, he plays the puck very well. Like he likes to come out of his net and play it. And I mentioned that it was huge for the defensemen and even the forwards on Montreal now is they don't have to switch their playing style when Jake's in net. Because sometimes defensemen and players don't know what to do depending on if the goalie's going to play it or not. But when you have 2 goalies that can play the puck well, it's going to help the D, it's going to help the systems and all that. So Jake would be one that I'm pretty happy with. Jake Evans, another one. I've mentioned it before, 7th round pick. How good has he been for the team? That's huge because I thought we were going to have to almost re-sign Nate Thompson in the offseason. I don't think they could have afforded him. But, I mean, like everybody – Bergevin's brought in, it's like they took like a whole analytics team or actually watched game tape where fans have been crying out for where the holes are in the roster and they actually filled them all perfectly. Like there's 3 lines there that are built perfect right now. And the whole team's impressing me. Like I said, like the chemistry's there. You see them all laughing in the pregame videos. Like they look tight. And I think like, I'm not harping on any of the guys that were here before, but it's like they got rid of some guys that maybe that didn't fit exactly to what they wanted or a certain mold they wanted. And this team, with the addition of like Toffoli's Stanley Cup champ, Edmondson's Stanley Cup champ, Jake Allen's Stanley Cup champ, like it's just like there's almost, I don't know how to say it, like there's a code or some kind of way to carry themselves this year, especially when Weber came in. Like it's just, I don't know what else to say, but like you can't help but love what this team is this year.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry if I went there loud there. But yeah, like you said it all, man. Like it's almost as if there was a grocery list that like Marc Bergevin went to, you know, I don't know if you guys have IGA back in fucking New Brunswick, but we do. And he goes over, he's just like, okay, cross this off for my wife. And our wife is the fans of the Montreal Canadiens here. And he just got it done. Like, you know, Jake Evans is a surprise, I think, for all of us. We saw what he could do in the bubble. But he stepped in. You got Jake Allen. From what I gather, you still fucking watch him at the rink where you are, right?
Yeah. So Jake's a hometown boy here from Fredericton, and I used to work in the arenas. And during the summer, he'd get a few hours at the rink I was working at. So I get to watch him work. And the guy's great. You always hear the stories of Jake, especially in that playoff, like the Stanley Cup run, that he was the backup, unfortunately, because Bennington took over. But the guys were saying he would emulate other goalies that they were facing in that series just so the guys could learn tendencies of how they would play. And I mean, like you can just tell he's a team guy, and it doesn't help that he's playing good. I what more can you ask for?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the fact that they interviewed him and he talked about how his role on the team was to make Carey Price the best he can be. And
I was just about to mention that.
Yeah, just hearing that and hearing what you just said about him, like, it really shows that he's really a team guy, and he's going to be great for the team and for Carey Price's play this year.
Yeah, and like you said also, Brandon, is that, like, the fact that, like, the guys are loose. They're obviously, like, we're talking about this before the podcast, is that, the guys that have been here for a while, they've been through, some shit, and now it finally seems like, Carey Price having fun at the rink, doing the crab fucking celebration after robbing Joel Edmondson. It's all great things to see because they've been through some rough patches, and I don't know if the fact that there's no fans and less media helps kind of let them stay a bit more loose and less pressure. But overall, I totally agree with your assessment and being excited about the Habs because it's a fucking real thing right now. So don't know if we're ready to call it for the cup right away. We had the conversation in the DMs, but we'll see what happens. Let's move into one controversial topic, which is obviously the Kotkaniemi hit yesterday by Dylan Dubé. Obviously no additional, well, not obviously, but it's news to us that there's no suspension on this. I don't know if you were expecting this or what your thoughts are.
I mean, just officiating in general across the league's been atrocious. I mean, I watched I think it was Toronto Edmonton game. Like, they were calling like stick lifts and like a tap on the stick. And then after, when Armia went down, yes, Myers is 8'11", but Armia is not a small guy either. And he's elevated when he makes a hit. When you see that go, I mean, that was penalized, great, whatever. But that goes no suspension. And then you see Dubé lead with like a forearm shiver last night. And I mentioned it last night on Twitter. If that was Kotkaniemi hitting Dubé or any Habs player hitting any other teammate, or not teammate, sorry, any other team, I'd be calling for the same thing. That's a game or two. It's like they make this stupid rule of you have to, like, if the head's unavoidable, but like, you want to get rid of concussions. You want to save your superstars, potential superstar, any player's head. CTE is a bad thing, but this is when you start cracking down on it. I mean, even if it's a game or two, you got to let somebody know, like, if you can avoid that hit, avoid it. Yes, you miss the hit or you don't take him out of the play, but I mean, when's player safety more important than just like, oh, that guy made the right play? Like, player safety is huge. I didn't like it one bit. It's a forearm shiver. The elevation, it looks like he came off his feet, but it's hard to say because hockey's such a fast sport. But I didn't like it at all. I thought it was at least a game. I'm not talking like a 5-7 game thing because Kotkaniemi came back third period. But if you want to eliminate those plays, you got to get rid of these type of hits. I'm sorry. Like, yes, the guy's not going to take that player out of the play like coaches want, but safety of players is bigger than, like, Kotkaniemi's not a threat to score here. He's behind his own net. So I just thought it was predatory. I didn't like, if you would have hit him with his hands down, maybe, then I'd be okay with it. It was just the forearm shiver that bothered me. And you saw the head snap back. Kotkaniemi's 6'2". He's not a small guy.
Yeah.
Alex, you had thoughts on that?
Dubé is much smaller too than Kotkaniemi too. So he kind of has to get up there to hit him.
Yeah, Alex, because I know that we spoke a little bit about it. That you said that you like the idea of the hit, right?
Yeah, it's a weird way to phrase it, but like I would want a player to go for that hit. But yeah, unfortunately, he had his arms raised. Like you said, with the speed of the game, you can't really tell if he came up off his feet. But the main point of contact from every angle looked to be the head, and could definitely lead to serious injury. So yeah, I don't like the hit, but I also don't. I don't know. This is like a sensitive topic. I'm not going to say I don't want to go overboard and remove those hits from the game, because if he had kept his arms down and stayed on his feet, I think those hits should be allowed. Yeah. Maybe, I know they're looking at blindside hits, so yeah, you could argue that was a bit of a blindside too. I don't know. It's a tough topic for me. I don't want the entertainment value to leave the game, but yeah, like you said, player safety has to come first. And
I believe that one was. Yeah, I sorry, I didn't want to jump over you there, but I believe it was Ken Dryden that brought it up. I could be making a mistake here, but he was saying that, once you start being a bit more strict on the rules, players will adapt. But it's by being strict that, again, Brendan, you brought it up, is that if you really value safety, right? Like you said, like when is that dissociation of like he made the right play in an unfortunate event to the point that like, well, even if you did, you still can't like even if it was an accident, maybe you still do penalize it, even if it's one game. It sends a message that maybe you need to adapt when you go for those blindside hits, and that can again impact positively the way that people go for those big hits. So we'll see what happens, but obviously there's been some controversial calls in the player safety department this year with at least on the Habs side. I mean, it's a Habs podcast and you create Habs content, so we might be overshunning a couple of teams here, but interesting.
I agree with Alex too, though. Like, you want the player making that hit. I think like it's a lot different. Let's say Kotkaniemi grabs that puck at the half wall by the hash mark, and he's circling behind the net with his head up the whole time. You want Dubé to clean him out there. You want him to eliminate him from the play. I mean, because you're going to start another forecheck or a cycle. Like, I just think it was like the last second turnaround by Kotkaniemi and just the angle. Like, it's just one of those recipes of disaster in a game that's so fast now that we can't be splitting atoms every time either. That's what I dislike about it. But just for me, I think one game would have been, I don't think the whole hockey world would have lit on fire if there was one game there.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. Justin, you have I see you talking there. Sorry, buddy.
It's all good. Yeah, for me, it's just really the inconsistency is the real problem for me. Like, it seems like every fucking headshot or a hit that's questionable has a different outcome from the DOPS or the DPOS, as people have been calling them on Twitter. So for me, that's a problem. Like, it's a problem with the refs, first of all, and it's a problem with the DOPS, obviously, with George Parros at the front of it. So I mean, you can write all these different rules about being unavoidable, being this head has to be like at least 50% of being hit. But you have to enforce them with consistency, and you have to make an example of things that you don't want to be in the game. So I personally think this should have been a game or two. Like, I agree with you guys. And yeah, I thought it obviously should have been a penalty too. That to me was the most egregious thing. If
we got a fucking penalty out of all that shit. That made no sense. Like, at least the penalty would have made sense, but the problem is that the Department of Player Safety can't make the call for you on the ice, and then they have too much of a fucking gray area when it comes to making these actual decisions that you end up with like, oh, it was technically, like, fuck off, you got hit in the head,
And even then, like, you're arguing like the what's it called, the Tyler Myers hit got a 5-minute major, right?
Yeah,
and I mean,
but it was at the end of the game, fuck.
Yeah, but I mean, this one was arguably like the same type of hit, still a headshot, and Kotkaniemi was like injured on the play. He had to go to the dressing room. So to me, it should have been the same type of call for me. But yeah, just even a 2-minute would have been fine. I was just really pissed off that they called Weber with the roughing. Like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, that made no sense. Anyways, I think that was a great topic of discussion, a great starting point to get into. Would you rather? Has absolutely nothing to do with it, but it was a great to get your thoughts on it. So let's get into would you rather. So this is the part where we do a little game. Justin, I'll let you introduce this segment because it's you're a little bit of our game master for this one. So Brendan, I hope you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. So this is Would You Rather. If you haven't heard of it, we just basically put two players against each other. Usually they have similar stats and similar position, age, stuff like that. So this week it's a spicy one, and I'm not sure, you guys might all lean the same way, so I'm kind of scared. But we got Nathan MacKinnon and Connor McDavid. So
is this like to build your team around, or is this for like Habs?
This is like, it's not really associated to the Habs. You can just take it as build your team around, I guess.
Yeah. And the other thing that I'll tell you right now, Brendan, is that we did this for PLD and fucking Line, and just be careful what you say because people will roast you. So I know that you did a video. And you got roasted a bit too there. So I know that you're ready, but it gets spicy. So just
I had to make a second video apologizing.
Yeah.
There you go. So Brendan, let's start with you. Who do you take here?
Who do I take? McDavid, MacKinnon. Oh, I like McDavid, I like both of them, but I like MacKinnon as a two. I think more of like a two-way. But I mean, how do you not take McDavid? I mean, do you guys see that goal last night?
Yeah,
disgusting. We talked about it. Like,
I don't know how Montreal contained him. I'm thinking if I'm building my team, I take McDavid I just wish I could take McKinnon's like two-way hockey sense, but like McDavid's got like a different hockey sense. He's in like a creative how to score and stuff. Like, but like I find like McKinnon's hockey IQ of like the whole game may be better. McDavid fans, please don't roast me for that one. Like I just find like McDavid's just like raw talent, speed, and that's why he's better than everybody. It's just because he thinks the game faster and everything. But like I find like team play, defensive play, McKinnon's better. But how do you not take an East Coast guy, being an East Coast guy myself? So that's gonna get me ripped apart too. I gotta go McDavid. I mean, if you had McDavid with a actual like capable support cast besides Draisaitl, could you imagine what he'd be putting up? Like if you took, let's say, Tavares out of Toronto and you put McDavid in there, could you imagine what that power play would look like?
Yeah. First of all, don't make the Maple Leafs fans salivate more than they already need to. Fuck.
I know.
So,
they can't afford him anyways. Christ, can't afford him anymore either.
Exactly.
But I gotta go McDavid, boys. That's what I'm leaning.
Fair fucking answer. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can pick McKinnon here. I know someone will, but I don't know. You can't do it. The best player in the world, Connor McDavid, highlight reel every night, except against Montreal, apparently. But I know McKinnon's amazing. He's stepped up these past few years. And his play style obviously is different than McDavid. I think McKinnon's more like a truck, and McDavid is more of a finesse guy. So I guess if you want that grit and intensity, maybe you lean towards McKinnon. But for me, it's McDavid all day. No question, no hesitation.
Okay. All right. Well, here's where I get fucking roasted.
It's okay. I'm on the same side as you.
Guys.
Don't worry.
Guys. Okay. Good, Justin. We're in this together now. Okay. So the two top guys over here, buddy, you guys are wrong. And I'll tell you why. It's the contract. The contract of Nathan McKinnon. The difference, it's literally double, if I'm not mistaken. Almost double to the point. And the dissociation between Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon is not great enough to merit the fact that Connor McDavid, yes, he's worth 12.5, but so is Nathan McKinnon. He's worth at least 11. Like, you're going to tell me that Nathan McKinnon is worth, what is it, $6.7 million?
6.3.
6.3. What a fucking joke. Like, this guy is a game-changing player. I know Connor McDavid, if it was the same contract, it wouldn't even be a discussion. It would be Connor McDavid. But that is such a factor. And especially if you want to build a team, you have to put that into consideration. Is that, and it was the same kind of thing that I said for, PLD and Line A, is that I think that when you want to build a team, they're both centers in this case, so it's completely different. And they're both elite. And McDavid is obviously one of the greatest of all time. But because of that, I take McKinnon. I'm sorry. There's too many Micks in this. Anyways, go ahead.
I didn't even think of the contract.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's a really good point. My point is actually not about the contract, but I'm still gonna pick McKinnon. Really? And my take.
Then you're an idiot.
No.
Okay.
Listen to me. Okay, I know McDavid hasn't had a lot of playoff experience, but McKinnon is an absolute beast in the playoffs.
Yeah,
he has 54 points in 40 playoff games.
That's fucked.
He's a beast, and Connor McDavid only has 18 in 17 games. What a scrub. Just over a point per game. So for me, just based on that, I think Nathan McKinnon in the playoffs is a better player. But I think all around, you can't argue McDavid is the best player in the world. But I think McKinnon has that clutch factor, and I think he can be as dangerous as McDavid.
For sure. And the only thing that I'll say on that, though, and it comes back to your point, Brandon, is the fact that if you have a supporting cast that Nathan McKinnon has with Landeskog and Rantanen, I think the conversation is maybe changing quite a bit on my side, because if he has to play with Leon Draisaitl to get his point. Yeah, but they don't play all the time.
He has Draisaitl and Dominic Cahoon.
Like Dominic Cahoon. Cahoon. Fuck.
Cahoon.
I mean, Dominic Cahoon.
Mistake.
I mean, he had a good night
Dropped
last night, right?
Before last night. Actually.
Oh man.
Oh no.
Brutal.
That's bad timing, buddy. You hate to see it. But okay, all right. So I mean, it's a tie here, 2-2 fucking Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Justin and I, it's McKinnon for different reasons. And obviously Alex and Brendan, fucking Connor McDavid. So those of you who are watching this on YouTube and those of you who are listening on the podcast, give us your thoughts, roast the fuck out of us. Again, this is opinion, it's not fact. So but
it's
feel
fact.
free.
Straight fact.
But people will dislike the video if you say something that they disagree with. So just opinion, okay, guys? Just opinion. Anyway.
Let's throw up a poll on Twitter. Let's see what other people think when we post this
that's
video.
a great idea.
Let's throw up a poll.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But Brendan, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I know it's a quick segment, but we're dipping our toes in our first collab with you this year. So really happy to have you on. And any message that you want to give to the fans out there, and shout outs to your plugs in terms of Twitter handles, YouTube, all of that good stuff. Please go ahead.
I'll just do the plugs quick, just to get them out of the way. It's at Brandon Legacy 33 on Twitter. Quite vocal on there, especially games, especially if I have a couple pops. But at Brandon Legacy 33 on Twitter. Legacy's Corner on YouTube. It's not all Habs stuff because I do have East Coast friends here that obviously like other teams. So I did a Leafs episode today. I try to include other teams. I think I'm going to do a Capitals episode with a buddy here in the next couple of weeks. So that's always changing, but I just want to say thanks. I mean, this was a blast. I always love listening to you guys. We always interact on Twitter, all of us. So it's fun. I mean, we share a lot of the same ideas. And if I had a message to send out to everybody, especially now with COVID and everything, it's just be positive. I mean, let's appreciate the hockey players and what the NHL is doing, letting us watch, even though they're blacking out half the games. That's frustrating. I won't even get into that one. But like I said, let's just be positive. Stop attacking people on Twitter just because it takes or whatever. Both players and arguments are allowed to be good. Both teams are allowed to be good. AKA Toronto and Habs Twitter is quite
it's beautiful,
lethal, or it's savage. But like I said, let's just be happy. Sports are back on. I mean, I remember when this thing first started, there was nothing going on, nothing to do. So, I mean, I'm happy. I'm in a good mood. I try to be positive, and like I said, I'm very thankful you guys let me jump on. I hope it's not the last one. I really had a good time.
Same, dude. And again, you heard it here from Legacy, Brendan Legacy from Legacy's Corner. Again, check out his stuff. Again, in-depth reviews. You got all you need to know about different teams in the league. You'll even talk about NASCAR. So again, Brendan from the No Respek Podcast, we thank you for having you on, and this won't be the last time. So we'll throw it back to the episode. Cheers.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, boys.
A huge thank you to Brendan Legacy once again. It's actually quite nice to be able to speak about the Habs and in this good spirit, of course, with the start that we've had. We've actually got a couple of guests that are actually lined up for the weeks to come. I think we'll be having Gibby next week, depending on, again, Alex, your schedule and Gibby's schedule.
Always my fault.
If you guys don't know, have a listen. Go check them out. Good friends of ours. Great podcast. Lewis, Gibby, and Vinny. Funny guys. And if not, Scotian Canadian is also set to join us. Don't know when. Should be in the next couple of weeks. So super excited. If you guys don't know Scotian Canadian, you're missing out. He's basically the face of the Reddit on the Habs and a guy that puts out content on the daily almost. So huge shout out to him as well. But let's close off the show with the schedule for this week. So it's a bit busier than the one that just passed. So it's against Vancouver again, our good friends. So Monday and Tuesday back to back here, Vancouver, February 1st and February 2nd. And if not, we're playing against the Ottawa Senators, which is going to be on Thursday and Saturday. So your guys' thoughts, I don't know why I keep saying that. That's not fucking English. Your thoughts on this week and how are the Habs going to do?
I can go first. I think Vancouver is playing a lot better now, and they didn't really show it against the Habs last week in the 3 games there. So I think the first game on Monday, we're going to lose against the Vancouver Canucks 2 games in a row, 2 losses in a row. But then on Tuesday, we're going to win. And I think we're going to beat Ottawa both times. So 3-1 for me this week.
I like it. Alex?
Because they screwed my prediction last week, I think this is where it all comes falling apart.
No.
I think we're going to go either 1-3 or 0-3-1.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be a rough week.
Yeah, you're
Brady
just
Tkachuk,
saying that to protect
Brady
yourself
Tkachuk's
emotionally.
going to score a couple. Tim Stützle going to be unreal. I think JT Miller, is it TJ or JT?
JT.
JT
Miller. He's just a good player.
He is.
So yeah, it's going to be a rough week for us.
No, I disagree. I'm with you, Justin. I don't think that we're gonna do back-to-back losses, though. That's my difference. Is that I think that we're gonna win because we came back from a loss, and then the Vancouver Canucks are gonna get pissed and hold a player meeting only, and then after that they're gonna win the second game, and then Ottawa. I mean, I want to make sure that we beat them twice. They still have pieces that could surprise, like you said, Alex. But I think the Habs are just too deep of a team for them to really make a mark 5-on-5. So I give them the edge on this one. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Again, this is episode 5 of the 2020-2021 season, the No Respek Podcast. Again, a huge thank you for listening. Again, we're kind of not, I don't want to say surprised, but huge kind of like appreciation for the amount of views that we got, especially on our YouTube content. If you guys don't know, Justin is actually Salty Monster on Reddit and has been giving us the juice in terms of memes, Baseball Josh, Krabby Price, all of that good stuff. So if you want to give him a shout out on Reddit, you can. And yeah, as you guys all know, we have our own personas here on Twitter that you can follow individually. So it's Mackie_No Respek with a CK. Justin _No Respek and Alex _No Respek. And of course, you can reach us always at No Respek Podcast on Twitter. If not, we are on, of course, all that good stuff. We're on Google Podcasts. Did you believe it? We've got Spotify, we've got Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube, which is new, where we've seen quite a little bit of the stir up in terms of comments that you can leave. So please don't be shy. Go ahead and roast us. We live for this shit. So, guys, any other thoughts on this week in the Habs?
No, you said it all.
Fantastic. Alex?
I feel like I've had some pretty bad takes this episode, so I think I'm going to get roasted pretty hard.
No, bring it on, guys. Again,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a game. In the great words of Ilya Bryzgalov, it's why you mad. It's only game. So, guys, again, you have to be mad. All right, guys, that's it from us, from Mackie, from Justin, from Alex. Always remind you to respect the
organization.
Thank you, Ilya. Have a great one, guys.